I'm Mark Small. This is Civil Discourse Now. It's December 19th, 2024. We're going to be doing some more episodes of this show in the next few weeks. They might be the last episodes of this show, or any show that dares to kind of oppose the powers that seek to take control of the state and of this country. I want to make sure people understand something that I try to emphasize. And I spoke with a person this evening who said, well, but how would this happen? And the conversation was about a dictatorship being established on January 20th when the person who claimed victory in the November 5th presidential election, who was disqualified from being president for violation of the 14th Amendment, Section 3, who is an asset of a hostile foreign country, Russia, that has been engaged in an invasion of the United States, a cyber invasion. Russia's interfered in our elections. Nikki Haley in 2017 said that a nation interfering with another nation's elections commits an act of war. So one person this evening said, well, okay, but they would have the election in 4 years and then things can, no. Forget about it. Forget about anything you've learned is right or wrong in government. That anything we've had in terms of a constitution means anything at that point. Trump has said he's going to destroy the Constitution. He's going to get rid of it. Once he would be a dictator, that's it. Read history. Once the Third Reich took power, January 1933, there are no restraints. The Chancellor, Adolf Hitler, had absolute power. Constitution will mean nothing to Trump. The worst possible thing we can do is think that, well, he's saying we need to get a new constitution, and some of the things are just don't make sense. Can't do that. Imagine how much money will be unleashed by corporations whose identities for First Amendment purposes are off limits, according to Citizens United decision by the Supreme Court in 2010. They'll dump so much cash in that you won't have to worry about those rights or elections anymore. You don't like it? Too bad. Now, leading up to January 20th, the only action that somebody can do is we can encourage President Biden to cite the emergency powers that Trump is saying he will cite. And the irony is Trump is the emergency. It's not an emergency from anyone else. He has said he will destroy the Constitution. How can he take an oath to support, defend, and protect the Constitution? He can't. So let's say President Biden says, well, now we'll do a peaceful transition, and then the next election, peaceful transition of what? You're putting form over substance. If you really think that there's any way in which Trump or the people who control Trump are going to let him do anything other than a dictatorship, you're being silly. And they'll make fun of people who were so silly as to fall for that leading up to January 20th. Trump is unqualified. He's disqualified himself to be president by engaging in supporting insurrection. So on the one hand, you might say, well, yeah, he's a dictator. You'd be saying he's a dictator for life, but then if President Biden would invoke emergency powers, it's the same thing. Qualitatively, sure is. You got authoritarian rule. And so if you're going to look at what the executive authority would be claiming as power at that point, well, pretty extreme. But we've had times of war in this country in which the writ of habeas corpus was suspended during the Civil War. We've had other freedoms suspended when we faced national emergencies. And nothing has come close to what we're facing now. Now, if some of you think that you learned differently, that this isn't how it would go, um, I'm not asking you to accept blindly what I say. I'm asking you to listen to people. On the other hand, people on the far right, people who want power, don't want you to listen, don't want you to discuss, don't want you to talk. There's an individual involved in the homeschooling movement here in Indiana I spoke with about 10, 12 years ago. And he claimed to be a high school debater at one point. And I said, I know you guys do competitions for basketball and everything. And he was on how good he was in debate, whatever. I said, well, I know you put together teams for basketball and stuff. What do you do in terms of debate for homeschooling students? He said, we don't. They don't want you to learn how to think and question. So I'm asking you to think, question. When these people get power, they won't give it up. So please encourage President Biden, encourage elected leaders wherever you live. Say, look, we need to stop this. Trump should be prosecuted. He shouldn't be allowed to hold an office from which he sold out this country. We've got a lot to do between now and January 20th if we're to save this country from a dictatorship. You know, George Washington could have been president of the United States or king. A lot of people wanted a monarchy. Washington thought that was wrong, refused to do that. The framers of the Constitution had a lot of flaws in their beliefs. They had a lot of flaws in the document they wrote. But they recognized that. They knew the country would advance. And actually, they did a lot of things at the beginning there, protected slavery, not just allowed it to go on, that we've overcome over time. That's been the greatness of this country, if anything could be greatness. It's recognizing its shortcomings and doing what we can to overcome them. That greatness, our movement towards it, was pulled away, especially when 2016 hit. So please think about what I've said. Watch Civil Discourse now over the next weeks. And like I said also, read, listen, write your elected representatives. Peace.